Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're undertaking an exploration that goes quite a bit further than the familiar story of Siddhartha Gautama.
hmm
We're not just looking at the prince who became the Buddha. We're plunging straight into the primary sources to understand his identity. Well, not just as a historical figure, but as a unique cosmic phenomenon.
That's absolutely right. Most people, when they come to this, they're looking for the biography, the foresights, the great renunciation, the moment of enlightenment.
That timeline, basically.
Exactly. But the texts we're examining today, they define him in a fundamentally different way. They're asking about the role and, more importantly, the necessity of the one they call the Tathagata, the one who has come thus.
And for you, the listener, our mission here is really to give you the ultimate shortcut to understanding why the appearance of this one individual is seen as the single most rare, the most beneficial event that can happen in the entire universe.
We'll be looking at his purpose, the miraculous nature of his birth and life, and even the karmic architecture of his physical body.
Okay, so to begin, we have to establish this core concept, which is, well, it's cosmic scarcity.
That's the perfect term for it. The sources lay out this rigid, almost mathematical law that governs reality. The ancient phrasing is, in one world system, there is only one Buddha.
Right, let's pause on that phrase, world system lokadhatu, because we're not just talking about planet Earth, are we? What is the scope of that?
No, not at all. A world system, a lokadhatu, is an entire cosmology. It's a vast, structured universe of countless realms. We're talking heavens, hells, different inhabited worlds, all governed by a single set of physical and spiritual laws.
So it's an entire universe in and of itself.
Precisely. And this one immense entity is defined as being capable of producing and sustaining only one Sammasambuddha, a fully self-awakened one, at any given time.
So this doctrine of singularity, it means that having two of these beings appear at the same time isn't just unlikely, it's structurally impossible for that world system.
It's impossible. The source says that is not the basis or opportunity for it to occur. It simply can't happen. This individual is called the singular individual.
And the texts really hammer this point home, don't they? That his appearance is exceedingly difficult to achieve in the world.
They do, and that rarity is what underscores the immense power of this person and the extraordinary, almost unbelievable circumstances required for his path to even begin, let alone reach its conclusion.
Okay, so if we accept that premise, that his appearance is the single most important event in a world system, then we have to ask the big question, why? What is his purpose?
Right.
The sources say he arises for the happiness and welfare of the world, but that's a bit generic. The texts get much more specific about what makes his presence an existential necessity.
They do, and this is where I think the real philosophical weight of this material comes through. His appearance isn't some random act of grace. It's a specific required response to three inherent flaws in the very fabric of reality.
Flaws.
Yes, the texts are clear. If these three things did not exist, the Tathagata would not need to arise. His Dharma, his teaching, wouldn't need to shine in the world.
So let's break down these three pillars of necessity. These are the conditions that define all of conventional existence and, suffering. What are they?
In the classic terms, they are jati, which is birth. Then there's chara, which is aging or decay. And finally, marana, which is death.
Birth, aging, and death.
Because these three are so relentless, so deeply woven into the nature of existence, the world requires a lamp, as they call it, to illuminate the path out of this cycle.
That really changes the whole narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Buddha isn't here to teach people how to live a better life within the system. He's here because the system itself, which is defined by birth, aging, and death, is fundamentally broken and needs a complete solution.
That's the core insight. You've hit the nail on the head. If existence were perfect, if beings were born into these permanent youthful bodies that never died, a kind of stable heaven,
Then his path would be redundant.
it would be totally redundant. The sources are basically saying, just look at the reality of how things are. It begins in pain, it constantly deteriorates, and it ends in dissolution. Therefore, the only thing that has ultimate value is the teaching that solves that equation.
And that solution, the Dharma, it must be unbelievably potent to break through the habits of a cosmos that's been trapped by these three conditions for eons.
It has to be.
So what about the immediate impact of his teachings? The sources detail these four. They call them unprecedented wonders that show this unique, almost magnetic power of the Dharma.
Yes, and these four wonders are so interesting because they show that the Tathagata's teaching has this unique counterintuitive ability. It can penetrate the deepest psychological barriers, the layers of delusion that normally have a death grip on us.
Okay, so let's start with the one we can all relate to. Sensuality, attachment.
The first wonder. Most beings are, as the text says, infatuated or intoxicated by sense pleasures. It's what we chase. Yet when the Tathagata teaches a Dharma that is completely unrelated to those sense objects, a path of letting go,
People listen.
people who are otherwise totally hooked will listen intently. They'll actually set their minds on understanding liberation. It goes against their deepest conditioning, but it works.
Which suggests the Dharma is tapping into something even deeper than their conditioned desires. What about the second great delusion, the ego?
That's the second wonder. Pride, self-conceit. It's a universal human enjoyment. We get satisfaction from feeling superior. But when the Tathagata teaches a Dharma aimed explicitly at eradicating that self-conceit,
The same thing happens.
the very same people listen intently. They willingly absorb the antidote to their favorite delusion. It's as if they suddenly see the poison they've been cherishing and decide right then and there to put it down.
It's like a spontaneous willingness to dismantle your own ego, just from hearing the words. What about the state of, chaos and restlessness?
That's the third wonder. And it's a strange one, but many people find a kind of comfort in unrest, in chaos, in noise. They're addicted to the drama of life.
I think we all know people like that.
Right. Yet, when the Tathagata teaches the Dharma that leads toward quietude, toward perfect peace and tranquility, the end of all that drama, they listen with full attention. They seek that stillness they normally run from.
So he turns the sensual toward detachment, the proud toward humility, and the restless toward peace. The final wonder must then address the core problem of it all, ignorance.
Correct. The fourth wonder is about avisha, fundamental ignorance. The world is described as being blind, covered in darkness. Yet when the Tathagata teaches a Dharma designed to dispel that ignorance, even those who are completely clouded and unenlightened listen intently, dedicating their hearts to complete understanding.
These four transformations, the ability to turn a mind toward its exact opposite, that's the signature of a Buddha's arising.
It is. The implication is that this teaching, this discipline, it must be flawless to achieve the impossible. And that's why his presence is the ultimate welfare. They call him the Sugata, the well-gone one.
So what are the specific qualities that make him this unsurpassed benefactor? It's more than just being a good teacher, right?
Yeah. Oh, much more. The sources list these titles that grant him mastery over all of existence. Of course, he's the arahant, the fully self-awakened one. But look at the others. He's perfected in knowledge and conduct. He is knowing the world, lokavidu.
Knowing the world, that means he's not just a philosopher, he's a cosmos comprehender. He understands the mechanics of reality.
Precisely. And he's called the unsurpassed trainer of men to be tamed. He knows exactly how to guide any being, no matter their temperament, and crucially, he's the teacher of gods and men. His authority extends beyond the human realm into the divine.
That really clarifies the scope of his impact. But what about the discipline itself? The sources say the Dharma is beautiful in the beginning, middle, and end. What does that triplicity mean?
It means the entire path is pure. From the very first step, which is ethical living, that's the beginning, through the development of concentration and wisdom, that's the middle, all the way to the final goal of nirvana, that's the end.
So it's a complete and totally pure way of life.
Yes, what they call brahmacharya, spiritual perfection in both its meaning and its expression. And the presence of the Sugata and this pure discipline is the only thing needed for the ultimate well-being of both gods and humans. It's the counteragent to birth, aging, and death.
His existence is the cosmic answer to cosmic imperfection. Okay, so if his purpose is that grand, let's see how that translates into his specific earthly life, starting with the really surprising story of his family line.
Let's do it.
Let's transition from that macrocosmic purpose to the micro details of his lineage, the Sakya clan. The sources give this incredibly dramatic, almost mythological origin story, and it starts with a king named Dukaka.
It does, and it starts with a classic royal drama. The king wants to put the son of a younger favored wife on the throne.
Which means the older, more legitimate sons have to go.
They have to be exiled. Their names were Ukamuka, Karakandu, Hathinika, and Sinapura. They're forced out of the kingdom to ensure the new heir can rule without any challenge.
And they end up settling in this rough area near the Himalayas by a forest. But they have a problem, right?
Yeah.
How do you preserve a royal bloodline, the purity of your caste, when you're out in the wilderness?
And this is where the story takes a a very striking turn. To maintain that royal purity, to make sure their lineage wasn't mixed with any non-royal blood, the exiled sons decide to intermarry with their own sisters.
I mean, that is a deeply unconventional, almost shocking decision. But it's done purely to preserve their pedigree.
Purely. And when their father, the king, hears about this extreme measure they took, he gives them their name. He exclaims, "Brave young men," or Sakya. And so they become the Sakya clan. The name itself is born from this defiant, brave act of self-preservation.
What's really fascinating, and I think it's often overlooked, is that despite this proud, exclusive lineage, the sources are very clear that politically the Sakyas were not independent. They were subservient to a much bigger kingdom.
That's such a crucial detail. They were under the authority of King Pasenadi of Kosala. They had to perform all the duties of a subordinate state, receiving the king, greeting him, rising to salute him. They had to bow to his earthly power.
And that fact sets up the ultimate tension in the story. They're a proud clan, but politically they're minor players.
It creates this incredible reversal of power later on, because King Pasenadi, the man who commanded total reverence from the entire Sakya clan,
Yes.
he later showed that exact same deep reverence receiving, rising, saluting to the Tathagata, the son of his former vassals, after he became the Buddha. It's a perfect illustration of spiritual conquest, completely overshadowing worldly power.
An amazing reversal.
Okay.
Okay, let's move to the moments just before his birth. We're not talking about the rebirth of an ordinary soul here. The sources stress that this being is fully conscious before he even descends to earth.
He is the Bodhisattva. He resides consciously, mindfully. The text says, Satiratuas Wan Pram, fully aware, in the Dusita heaven. He lives out his full lifespan there, completely conscious, before choosing the exact moment and place for his final birth.
So this isn't some unconscious karmic drift. It's a deliberate, mindful choice.
It is, and that descent itself triggers these immense, measurable cosmic events. When the Bodhisattva enters his mother's womb, two huge wonders happen, starting with what you could call a global light event.
Tell us about that.
An unquantifiable, immense light appears across the entire million-fold world system. The sources stress that this light is far brighter than the sun, the moon, even the light of the most powerful gods. It's a pure, spiritual illumination.
And what's amazing to me is the specific detail they give about how far this light reaches. It has a boundary.
It does. It reaches the deepest, darkest regions of a place called Lokantarika Hell. This is a cold, terrifying realm where the darkness is so absolute that the combined light of the sun and moon can't even touch it. The beings there live in total blind isolation.
And the light from the Bodhisattva's conception pierces that absolute darkness. What's the result?
For the very first time, these beings in Lokantarika Hell are lit up enough to see each other. They can finally recognize the presence of others, and they cry out, "Others exist here too!"
Wow.
It's this phenomenal image of a cosmic birth announcement, an event so significant that it brings light to the absolute depths of suffering before a single word of teaching has even been spoken.
That's an incredible connection. What about the second cosmic event?
The great earth shakes. It's a massive earthquake, and the texts are careful to categorize the causes of these events. The Bodhisattva's mindful descent into the womb is listed as the third primary cause of a major world-shaking earthquake.
And the effects on his mother, Queen Maya, are just as miraculous. They're all about protection and purity.
Instantly. Deva's sons, these divine beings, form a protective guard in all four directions. Nothing, human or non-human, is allowed to harm the mother or the child. And what's more, the mother, without any effort, automatically begins to observe the 5 precepts.
So she's in a continuous state of perfect moral purity.
Perfect purity. She's immune to any man's lustful thoughts. She enjoys perfect health. And the texts say she experiences the finest of the 5 sensual pleasures. But the most mountable image is the clarity of the womb itself.
The beryl gemstone analogy.
Yes, it's beautiful. The source says she can see the bodhisattva inside her as clearly as you would see a colored silk thread green, yellow, red, or white passing through a perfectly cut, flawless beryl gemstone. There's no obstruction. And the gestation is fixed exactly 10 full months.
Okay, let's move to the birth itself, which is really the climax of this miraculous story. The way he's born is unique.
She gives birth standing up. The newborn emerges and is received first by devas, by the gods, and only then by humans. And the source makes a huge point about his purity. He isn't smeared with any bodily fluid, no mucus, no blood, no impurities. He is pristine.
And the natural world immediately responds.
2 streams of water, one hot and one cold, appear out of thin air to bathe both the mother and the child.
And then comes the moment of the ultimate declaration. The noble utterance, the asabhivaja, what happens?
He steps down onto the earth, his feet perfectly flat. He takes 7 steps to the north while a white parasol is held over him by invisible hands. He looks in all directions, and then he declares his supremacy and his destiny.
And what are those 3 declarations? Foremost, chief, and supreme. How are they different?
Well, they overlap, but they seem to emphasize different things. Foremost of the world, ego, is simply being number 1, the primary. Chief of the world, Jetho, implies seniority, leadership, and wisdom. And supreme of the world, Setto, implies the highest possible quality and attainment.
So it's a declaration of total hierarchical and qualitative dominance, and that's followed by the definitive statement about his spiritual work.
The final words. This is the last birth, there is no more existence. That one sentence encapsulates the entire purpose we talked about earlier. He has solved the problem of jati, of birth, at the very moment he arrives.
There is, however, a sad note right after this regarding his mother.
Yes, the texts note that 7 days after his birth, Queen Maya passes away.
The final piece of his identity that we need to establish here comes from a conversation he has much later, after his enlightenment, with a Brahmin named Drona. He essentially rejects all conventional labels for what he is.
Right. Drona sees him and is just stunned by his perfection. And he asks him, are you a god, a deva, a celestial musician, a gandharva, a spirit, a yaksa, or just a man, a manusa?
And the Buddha says no to all of them.
No to all of them. And his reason is rooted in his conquest of defilements. He explains that the asava, the spiritual corruptions like craving and ignorance that would bind him to any of those states, have been completely destroyed. Uprooted, he says, made like a palm stump so they can never grow again.
And this profound freedom from the very things that anchor us to the world is why he tells the Brahmin to remember him by just one title.
He says, remember me as Buddha, the awakened one. And then he uses that beautiful lotus analogy. Just as a lotus is born in the muddy water, grows up through the water, but stands above it, totally untouched and unstained by it.
So too is the Buddha born in the world, grown in the world, but he stands above it, completely unpolluted by it.
That's it.
Which brings us perfectly to our 4th and deepest section. How that ethical perfection, that purity, manifested in his physical form. We're diving into the 32 marks of great man, the Mahaparisa Lakkhana.
And this section is so crucial because it directly links ethical action over countless lives to physical reality. The body of the Tathagata isn't just described as beautiful, it's the measurable, visible result of immense accumulated virtue, what the sources call burapakam, or prior karma.
The sources detail all 32 marks and the exact good deeds required to get them. It's a stunning piece of causal philosophy. But before we get into the list, we have to understand the consequence. A man born with these 32 marks has only 2 possible destinies.
Exactly 2. It represents the absolute peak of karmic potential, destiny 1. If he stays a householder, he will inevitably become a wheel-turning monarch, a Chakravartin king.
And a Chakravartin is way more than just a regular king. He's the perfect worldly ruler.
He is a righteous king who conquers the world and rules the 4 oceans without ever using violence, just by the sheer force of his virtue. He possesses the 7 jewels, the divine wheel, the perfect elephant, the wish-fulfilling gem, and he commands 1,000 brave sons. It is total worldly dominion achieved through pure goodness.
The absolute peak of worldly power. Okay, so what's destiny 2?
He goes forth from the household life. He renounces the world.
And he becomes
the Arahant Sammasambuddha, the fully awakened one, who conquers the defilements of the entire world system and removes the veil of ignorance from the world. So the body itself guarantees either absolute worldly glory or absolute spiritual glory.
This choice, the Chakravartin versus the Buddha, is going to be the core of our final thought. But first, let's unpack this karmic blueprint. We can't just list all 32 marks, so let's look at some of the most powerful clusters, linking the past deed to the physical mark and the final benefit.
Good idea. Let's start at the foundation. Steadiness and fearlessness. What karma gives the Buddha his unique footing.
Okay, so the karmic action here is being steadfast in doing good, refusing to be afraid, protecting others from danger, and giving charity without any hesitation. This creates 2 of the most famous marks, the flat feet and the wheel sign on the soles of his feet, complete with 1,000 spokes, a rim, and a hub.
And why a wheel on the feet? The resulting benefit, the V-back, is that he is completely unwavering against any enemy, whether it's an internal enemy like lust or hatred, or an external one like a hostile person.
So his footing is literally and metaphorically perfect.
And that wheel sign guarantees that he'll have an immense retinue of followers, monks, lay people, gods, humans, who revolve around him, just like a kingdom revolves around its monarch. The perfection of his footing symbolizes the perfection of his support system.
That's a beautiful link. Okay, let's jump to the marks related to longevity and compassion.
Compassion and nonviolence are absolutely key here. The karma is abstaining entirely from killing, avoiding any kind of violence, and cultivating universal compassion for every living being.
And this results in 3 marks: long heels, long fingers and toes, and a body that is as straight as a Brahma god.
And the benefit of that ethical restraint is very direct. He's guaranteed a long lifespan. His life cannot be cut short by any enemy. No human, no god, no spiritual foe can take his life before its appointed time. He's immune to untimely death because of the profound respect he showed for the lives of others.
Okay, what about generosity and support? How does giving things away create a physical receiving mechanism?
The karma is providing excellent, refined food and drink, and serving others using what they call the 4 bases of sympathy: giving, kind speech, helpful action, and impartiality.
And this shows up on the body as soft hands and feet, net-like lines on his palms and soles, and 7 convex, fleshy places on his hands, feet, shoulders, and neck.
And the benefit confirms that karmic reciprocity. The person who gave the finest support now receives the finest food and drink without any effort. And his entire community, the Sangha, receives perfect support and care from others. His past generosity creates an unbreakable support network in the present.
Let's talk about one of the most striking marks: the golden body. This must be tied to an incredible level of purity and wisdom. What actions lead to skin that's literally gold and repels dust?
The prior karma here is very intellectual and ethical. It's actively inquiring about what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. It's giving fine, soft clothing, and it's completely overcoming anger and irritation.
So that deep internal work results in the golden body and the fine skin that dust can't cling to.
Exactly. The wisdom he gained internally, that penetrating knowledge of good and bad, is reflected externally as a body that is symbolically pure golden and doesn't hold on to the dust of the world.
And the benefit, the Vibhack.
He attains great wisdom, sharp, penetrating, comprehensive wisdom, and he receives the finest, softest clothing imaginable, fit for a spiritual monarch. The external purity is a direct reflection of the internal purification.
Let's look at the connection between speech and physical form. The marks like the lion-like jaw and the Brahma voice. That has to come from perfect communication.
Absolutely. We can group a few karma clusters here. It's avoiding harsh speech, only using pleasant and kind speech. It's avoiding slander and promoting harmony. And it's avoiding meaningless chatter, only speaking timely, factual, meaningful words.
An entire lifetime of complete verbal discipline.
Yes, and this creates the physical results. The jaw, like a lion, the sufficiently large tongue, which can cover his whole face, and the voice like Brahma, which is as clear and melodious as a Karavika bird.
And the benefit of this is twofold, right? Spiritual and political.
Right. Spiritually, his words are heeded and followed by all beings, in all realms. And politically, it renders him invincible. No internal defilement and no external enemy can defeat him because his power is rooted in the unshakable truth and purity of his communication.
And we shouldn't forget the marks related to his teeth, which are tied to livelihood.
This is a great one. The karma is strictly abstaining from any kind of false livelihood. No cheating, no harming, no stealing, no extortion, no using false weights and measures.
Total moral cleanliness in how he lives.
Total. And this results in 40 complete teeth that are perfectly even and straight with beautiful white canines. The benefit is that his retinue, his followers, are also clean and pure, with a moral integrity that mirrors his own.
So if we just step back for a second, the 32 marks confirm that the Tathagata's physical perfection is the ultimate visual proof of his spiritual legitimacy. Every single feature is a record of a past virtue.
It is, and this incredible detail is what allows the sources to make that final, powerful distinction between his 2 destinies. The physical marks guaranteed him the greatest possible worldly power, the power of the Chakravartin king, but the core of the story is that he renounced that guarantee for a path that was infinitely more difficult.
And this is where we bring our whole deep dive back to its original mission. We establish that the Tathagata's appearance is required by the very nature of existence, by birth, aging, and death. His physical body was capable of dominating kingdoms and men.
But the sources stress how hard the path he actually chose was. During his 6 years of asceticism, he says, "We did what was difficult for others to do. He chose spiritual conquest over worldly dominion."
The knowledge he ultimately gained was comprehensive. It transcended all the normal boundaries of understanding. The sources say he was skilled in the knowledge of this world and other worlds.
And crucially, he knew both the Vaya, the cycle of suffering that is the home of Mara, of death, and the Vivaya, the sphere that is free from Mara, free from death. He understood the mechanism of suffering and the mechanism of its end completely.
And that comprehensive knowledge is why his teachings are so reliable and why his appearance is such a rare treasure. He opened, as they say, the gate of the city of immortality for everyone, actively blocking the path of the evil one, of Mara.
And the sources promise that anyone who trusts and follows these teachings, who accepts them as being worth listening to, will receive benefit and happiness for ages. The solution to birth, aging, and death is there, and it's rooted in a life of unimaginable virtue.
Which leaves us with our final thought for you, the listener. We've laid out the two ultimate destinies available to the being with the 32 marks. The mighty emperor, the Chakravartin, ruling with perfect justice over the entire world, with thousands of loyal followers.
Or the awakened one, the Buddha, who conquers the defilements of the entire world system. The emperor conquers men and territory using virtue as his tool. The Buddha conquers the internal limitations of existence, birth, aging, and death using knowledge as his weapon.
So consider the profound choice that's at the heart of this story. The physical and political glory of the emperor was his birthright. It was the easiest path available to him, and he rejected it for the immense, difficult spiritual path.
So the question for you to think about is this. Which of these two paths, worldly dominion over kingdoms and men, or spiritual awakening over defilement and death, do you see as the truer, higher form of conquest?
And what does that choice imply about the ultimate value of knowledge versus power in our own lives?